we're going to have to swap it over. So, good morning. Right, there we go. We're in. I think that works. So, good morning. Hi, if you're with me on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Hi, if you're with me on Insta. Hi, if you're with me on TikTok. I've got so many tripod stands, it drives me mental. That's far too low. Right, we're in. Okay, cool. So what's the play for today? Well, I was talking to someone yesterday about some of the tweaks that I've personally put into the business over the space of, let's move you down here, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, because I know I'll look at the right camera. There you go. Some of the actual specific changes that we've put into the business over the space of 6 weeks, and how that's actually made a massive impact on what we're doing, the way we're doing it, and the results we get out of it. So I thought, why not get on this morning before I hit the client calls and sort of give you a bit of an idea behind it. How's everyone feeling about the whole new year, new me stuff? I know for a lot of people, this is the dreaded point when we start resorting back to our old habits. And that was one of the problems that I had tail end of last year. We're always working about a month, 2 months ahead. So what I was doing in January is stuff that I'm relying on now. Makes sense. So a lot of the stuff I was doing 15th of December was actually based on where we are right now. And I was doing a review earlier about this, and it was really interesting to see some of the small tweaks that have been put in place and the impact some of those smaller tweaks have actually had. So to break it down a little bit more for you, just so that we've got context behind it, and then maybe you can go off and do it yourself. So who's this for? Well, anyone, if you're selling, whether you're a business owner or whether you're a salesperson, it's actually really deliberate behind quite a bit of it. Now, I'm a big believer in personal development. Not the fact you should blindly follow people, but I think everyone's got a new level. I think where we are now and where we can get to is going to come from, if I put this here, there you go, and then I'm sort of looking at everyone. Where we are now and where we want to get to, there's going to be small tweaks and small adjustments that we've got to put in place to make those things happen. I had to do a bit of a deep dive on myself about what are the areas that I want to change, what are the areas I want to improve, what am I prepared to give up? But I had a bit of a fear. And my fear was, if we're averaging 30 to 50K a month between those brackets, that's all right. And actually, I didn't want to make anything too big a dramatic change that could actually take us backwards. And I think this is one of the big problems that we have for a huge amount of us, is when we're making a change in our business, when we're making a change in our career, we're not quite sure, is the change worth the risk? And we've got to evaluate that. So what we end up doing is sort of sitting where we are, because we think, well, if I invest into X and it doesn't work, I've wasted time and money. If I change this, then it might end up being, but it's not the fact it just doesn't work, but it might actually have a negative effect on my business. So if that's something you can relate to, this might help as well. And you end up in this almost holding pattern of wanting to make a change. And we don't know what the changes need to happen well. So I looked at a number of different areas. I looked at mentality for myself. What are my barriers? What are my beliefs? What are the business changes that I can make? What can be automated, processed? And what can actually be done to keep myself diligent? But I also didn't want to really work any harder. And it's really important to work out what stage you're at with everything you're doing. Because for a lot of us out there, we need to work out, do you want to work harder? Because I'm already working pretty hard anyway. I didn't want to suddenly go back to doing 18, 20-hour days. I really like the fact that I get up at 5:30 in the morning. I like the fact I work till about midday. I like the fact to take a couple of hours off in the afternoon. I like the fact that I then come back and do stuff then. So I've got a life that I really like. And I really wanted to then work out, well, what are the changes I'm prepared to make? What am I prepared to give up? And what don't I want to do? I don't just want to work harder because I think I'm really effective at what we're doing. So we've got to be able to break all that down. So I had a conversation with someone, a guy called Adam Cox, who is a hypnotist. He's done a lot of stuff with the royal family. My nose is really itching. And I had a conversation with him. And I said to him, what I want to be able to do is get back to operating at the best version of me. So, for example, when was that? When was the most optimum I was? And I'll break it down for you. I'm now at the stage, I'm the business owner, I'm a consultant, I'm a coach, I'm a trainer. So a vast amount of my time is spent working with clients. So the hat I'm wearing for the majority of the time is actually my client hat. It's the coaching hat. It's the strategic development hat. It's sitting down, working out people's objection handling manuals, their client journeys, building out their offer with them. So it's always about the other side. And I really love that part of my business. But then I've also got to be able to turn it on when I'm getting onto calls to help people, not just go into coaching mode, which is what I used to always do. I would get so excited on a coaching call that I would start coaching the person on the call instead of actually helping them really get a clear plan so they actually got the results. So that ended up having a bit of a detrimental effect on the conversion rate. We went down to about a 45-50% conversion rate, which was shocking for what we do. We're typically at sort of 75%. But then we had a conversation, and this is what you need to work out for yourself, is we had a conversation about why does that happen? What is the point in the conversation, in the structure that happens, and why am I doing that? And it's because what I was struggling to do was to take the coaching hat off and put the sales or new business hat on. And you've got to be at the stage that if you're a business owner and you're wearing all the hats or you're wearing multiple hats, you've got to be able to effectively and without a large break in time, take one hat off and put the other one on and operate at a high level. And it's in that gap right there, which was the biggest hurdle for me. Because if I've just gone out and done 4 hours of client calls, I'm in client call where we've just built out a client journey. I'm on a client call where we've done a deep dive. We've done a client call where we're doing role play. With client call where it's a sales training session. You're very much in that flow of coaching state. To then go off and then be doing 2 or 3 different sales calls, you've got to be able to, in that moment, transition into wearing the sales hat, the new business hat, the revenue generating hat, not the client conversion hat. And it's really important to work out, what is that bottleneck within your own business? Do you find that there's a long gap between, for example, we work with solar space, heating, plumbing, sort of service-based businesses. Is there a gap between, you've got an hour journey to go to a meeting? What in that gap happens is you then turn off out there. Maybe you're at a stage that you're doing phone calls all day. Maybe you're doing face-to-face meetings and you've got a gap between them. Maybe it's the fact that you're just wearing different hats or you're selling different products or services. What you end up doing is you're coming into it almost cold, and it ends up really affecting how quick you get into that strong flow state. And what you've got to then be able to work out is, how do I turn that on so I go from X place to the next hat effectively without a break, and then bringing that timeline down. And now that's what we've been working out what to do. So a couple of things ends up happening. One, it's where we actually do a lot of the calls. So a lot of the time you'll see that this background here is where I do a lot of the recording, a lot of the filming, a lot of the coaching calls. A lot of the new business calls is done in a different place. So just by being in a different location makes a big difference, because it's a mindset shift different for the different locations that we've got. I also have a short list of things that I read before I actually go out and move into that next stage. And it's almost like a bit of a refresher, like a rewire of remembering the core basics. For anyone who's ever done anything like martial arts or you've done sports at a high level, sometimes we just forget to do some of the foundational basics in the business. And it can be months down the line. And you suddenly go, oh my God, I forgot. I haven't done that in ages. And what ends up happening is your clients end up missing out because they're not getting the very best version of you every single time. And our goal, especially for me, is to over deliver to all of our prospects, to all of our clients, to all of our leads. And that's only going to happen if we're operating at the highest possible level. Too many people get caught up on just trying to work harder. It's not always about working harder. It's making sure that in the time that we're actually working, that we're being at the most effective that we can be. It's not just double your work hours. That's not the way it should go. It should actually be at the fact of how can I double my effectiveness in the time that I'm actually working, which means you can have more impact, but actually have more of your own life, more of your own time. So that's something which I want people to think about. What are the areas which slow me down? And then how long does it take me to go from being really effective with this hat on, this role, and when I move into that next role, to move into that stage as well? And look into how you can then improve that gap. Some of the stuff's really, really basic, but it becomes really, really effective. Working with this hypnotist has made a massive difference to me. I feel like it's got rid of a lot of the baggage. And it's mean I have less anxiety in my head. I have less overthinking. So that's what we need to do. So mate, I really want to make sure that I'm working out a real clear plan or an overview of me and who I am as a person, where my strengths are, where my weaknesses are, and then adapting around it. And I think a lot of us, we try to sweep under the carpet a little bit what the weaknesses are that we have, what the problems are that we have, and we hope it just gets better. But actually, I think for a lot of us, the next step and the next stage is an internal bit of work we've got to do. Not to go all woo-woo with it, but I think sometimes we're all pushing a boulder uphill a little bit with our businesses. And we're just repeating stuff, hoping that things are just going to get better. It really makes a massive difference if we're going out. I'm going to do any questions in a minute, by the way. So if you have got questions, pop them in the chat. So just if you're joining now, we're here on TikTok, we're here on Instagram, we're here on YouTube, Facebook, and on LinkedIn. So if you see me looking around, I'm not having a fit. So yeah, it's really important to work out what are those internal changes that we've got to put in place that are going to make actually a bigger impact on where we are. It's not just working harder. And a lot of people, when we've come from a job and you've moved into having a business, it's sort of what people tell you, right? Just work harder. When you're your own boss, you've got to work all the hours. Yeah, that is true to a degree at the start, but you can actually just become more effective in the things that you're actually doing. And by making the changes we've just spoke about to go from wearing this hat into the next hat and cutting that timeline down where it's not an hour to get effective, that now has took the conversion back up to 74%. Meaning for every 4 people I speak to, that will convert 3 of them. I just don't have enough time for me to convert more people into conversations. So I literally, sales call wise, do a handful a week. We don't need to do many because we've got a lot of long-term clients. So it's really important to work out with the activities that you're doing, what are the actual results that they're bringing and what are the hurdles that we're facing? And this is why a lot of the stuff that we are doing consistently all the time, if we're either not very good at it or we don't like it, we don't put the most effort into it. It's a bit like pulling teeth. And you almost drag your feet in that process, which then means you don't get very good at it. But actually, if you reinvent the wheel a little bit on what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it for the short term, with the goal of outsourcing it to someone else, it makes it so much easier. Because if you've got people then that are really, really good at the things that you're not, it makes life so much easier. Right, I'm going to jump in and do a few questions. So if you get any questions, pop them in. LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. It doesn't show me on here the comments. I don't know why. So I can't really help it. So if you put a comment in, I will try my best to see it. But StreamYard doesn't really like it. Okay, so I'm going to start at the top and I'll come down. I hope everyone's having a good day, by the way. Scrolling. I've got to start wearing glasses from next week. Makes me realise why when I look at the screen. So if I miss your question, that might be why. I just saw some questions and I can't find them. Where are they? AJ says, how do you treat an off day and bounce back? Okay, so this is actually a really good question. Everyone has off days, like all of us. And it's not about beating yourself up on the off days. Long-term play, you want to work out how you can minimize the off day. You've really got to be able to work out how you minimize those times. So for me in the summer, for example, if I'm having a really off day, I know I need to change my state. And by me changing my state, I need to do something that's going to either elevate me or distract me. So for example, in the summer, I might go windsurfing for an hour. Now, it's not necessarily practical for everyone out there, but for me in my life, it's designed that way. So for me going doing that for an hour, I'm underwater for half an hour. And by the time I get there and come back and someone set it all up for me, that 1 hour, I will come back so rejuvenated, because for me, it really turns me on. It really gets me in. It really adjusts my radar with concentration, effort, so it shakes off any mood. But we've also got to work out, what are the things that light us up? What are the things that actually make us smile? And some people, they wear it like a badge of honor if you're having a bad day. I genuinely think that we've all got a song we love. We've all got a film that you like. We've all got stuff that we find funny. You could go off right now and find your funniest joke, your favorite song, go for a drive for 20 minutes, play some tunes, have a sing, and force yourself out of that bad slump. And here's the way I look at it. If someone called you now when you're in a bad day and said you've just won 50 million quid on the lottery, would you change your mood? And if you would, you are completely in control of that mood. And if you say, my day is going so bad, even if someone told me I just won 50 million quid, I'd be in a bad place, the day might be a write-off. If something happened with a family member, for example, nothing probably is going to shake that. And that's okay. But we've got to be able to categorize where these problems are, if that makes sense. Hope that helps. Right. Are you good at tax questions? I'll pay you. I'd get a tax advisor, bud. AJ, thanks, mate. I relate. Just finished my current contract consultancy role Friday. A bit anxious about it. Being anxious about stuff, I don't think is that big a problem. Living in a place where we are continuously anxious is a problem. That's not nice. It's tiring, really draining. But actually, if you're at a point where you're anxious, you're often not that sleepy. You're alert, you're aware, you're focused. I always say when we're at the stage that, by the way, if you're with us now, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, if you're at a stage now where you're anxious about something, you've often put a lot of attention. I always say anxiety. Anyone ever seen Superman, where he gets the laser beam eyes? And he's burning down the school and he's burning down the shed because he hasn't worked out how to control that power. I actually think that for the vast majority of us that have anxiety, once we learn to control it and tame it, it can actually be a superpower. We've just got to work out and put the effort in to get that there. Think of it in another way. Imagine anxiety was a pet tiger. Having a pet tiger would be really cool when it's on your side. But if it decided it wanted to fuck you up, there's nothing you'd be able to do. You wouldn't fight the tiger. And a lot of people try and wrestle their anxiety rather than distract it or tame it. And I think for a lot of people are out there trying to do that. So get your plan. We've got to start understanding ourselves a bit more as well. Next questions. Oh, crap. I've done it. All right. Don Scott says, how many cold calls do you make a day? I don't. So when you'll see a lot of our content around cold calling, we go through spells where I might, for one day, make loads of cold calls and it makes loads of good content. And that's because we're fishing for bigger whales. So we get a lot of inbound leads for coaches, consultant, experts. We do a lot in the solar space, recruitment and other areas. But if we're going to work with a larger company with a big sales team, the only way we're going to get in front of them is from outreach. So I'll have a hit list of, say, 100 companies once a month, once every couple of months, I might get out there and do some cold calls, but we don't apart from that. Next question. Right. So Don, you've just said, do you convert 70% of your cold calls? No. Going back to what we just said, inbound booked calls, typically sort of 70-75%. Cold calls, no one's doing it at that level. How do you segment your day? What is your split between demos v cold calling? So we don't do demos, first and foremost. We have two main programs. We have our conversations to clients, and then we have the Sales Accelerator program. The Sales Accelerator program is a weekly coaching with our academy. The conversations to clients is a tailored program which is designed to increase sales, improve revenue, and build a sales system for the business. So we don't really do demos. For a lot of the time out there, when we're having conversations, we've got a huge amount of things like automations, explainer videos, and other areas, because what we wanted to be able to do was increase the trust timer, which Matty Wilson coined, great phrase, for people from when they first get in contact with us to being in touch with me on a call. But we've built up in that gap between the two a huge amount of trust. So, for example, I've got a 28-minute video VSL. I've got 4 different 2-minute explainer videos that are animated. We've got videos, we've got voice notes. So from when people come through to actually getting on the call, there's about 7 different things that have happened before they get to the call. And that means by the time they actually get on with me, their trustometer is far higher. We've aggravated the itch. We've had a lot of conversations. We've had a lot of talking points out there, which makes it far easier, if that makes sense. Segmenting my day very much varies. My weeks are segmented differently. Friday afternoons, I don't do much coaching. I like to have monstrous Mondays. So I make Mondays really hard. We do a huge amount of client coaching calls because we want to have our clients start the week in the right possible way. But it also means if I have a really hard Monday, the rest of the week's really, really simple. Hope that helps. Okay. Someone said, what happened to the frosted tips? Oh, do you mean my hair? I went for a stage. I bleached my hair and then I went to tips because I mix it up. And now I've gone to like a weird spiky hair. I think our life's wonderful. And I think it's great to be able to mix stuff up. I'm going on to wearing glasses from next week. So it's good to change your look. It's good to mix it up. Not everyone's going to love it, but I don't do it for them. I do it for me. So yeah, frosted tips were in and out. Don says, do you run weekly sales meeting with your team? How often do you structure them? Okay. So I have a very lean business. The majority of what I do is me. We just took a great guy on for closing. So we talk every day. I actually record a lot of my calls and conversations and I'll share them. Hey, just watch this and watch that, blah, blah, blah. We do role plays and other areas. But again, we've got a lot of SOPs, plus we've got our academy, plus we've got other training areas. So it's more small level, consistent training to a high standard rather than anything else. Right, final one on here. Thanks. You're welcome. What's the biggest problem you see in sales teams? Do you know, I think for a lot of sales teams, a lot of people have inherited their skills and they don't necessarily know why. I talked to someone the other day and one of their big part was that the way that they sold was passed down like a generational torch and they didn't really ever know why. And when it was passed down to them 10 years ago, it worked. But they've just kept doing it. And now everyone gets to the stage where it's like the industry's changed. It's not necessarily the industry's changed. Things always change, but we haven't evolved. And we're still doing the same stuff from 5 years ago. So I think a lot of it's outdated methods. People don't know the differences that are out there. Right, that's me done. I've got 28 minutes before getting on to coaching calls. So I hope people are finding these lives of use. TikTok, good to see you. Go and have a good day. You're out. Right, Instagram, we're out. Good to see you. Go and have a good day. And then YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, go and have a lovely day. Talk to you later.